Commander David Wilson stood at the bridge of the U.S. Defender, his eyes fixed on the massive display screen before him. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, forgotten in the chaos of the last 12 hours. Strange signals had appeared at the edge of their solar system, unlike anything Earth's sensors had ever picked up before. "Sir, the objects are accelerating," said Mary Baker, his sensor officer. Her voice trembled slightly. "They're moving faster than any known spacecraft." Wilson put down his coffee cup and straightened his uniform. After 20 years in the United States Navy, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. The objects appeared suddenly, breaking through what looked like tears in space itself. Their ships were beautiful in a strange way, like giant crystals that caught and reflected sunlight. There were hundreds of them. "Try to contact them again," Wilson ordered. They had been sending peace messages in all known formats for the past hour. No response. Susan Wright, his communications officer, sent the messages again. This time, something changed. The crystal ships stopped moving. "Sir, they're responding." Susan's excited voice filled the bridge, but her smile faded quickly. "Something's wrong. I feel strange." Wilson felt it too. A cold feeling crept into his mind, like happiness being sucked out of the world. Several crew members grabbed their heads, some falling to their knees. The main screen crackled to life. The being that appeared looked like a statue made of blue crystal. Its voice echoed not through the speakers, but directly in their minds. "Your species is perfect," it said. "Such depth of emotion, such beautiful rage and hope mixed together. We are the Nexari. You will feed us well." Wilson didn't waste time with more talk. He had seen enough sci-fi movies to know where this was going. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. Earth's defense fleet was the best humanity had ever built, 50 ships armed with the latest weapons. They fought bravely. They never stood a chance. The Nexari ships didn't fire normal weapons. Instead, they sent out waves of energy that left humans helpless, drowning in their own despair. Only Wilson and a few others seemed able to resist, their anger burning bright enough to fight back against the emotional attack. "Sir, the Lincoln and Roosevelt are down," Mary reported, tears streaming down her face even as she fought to stay focused. "The Kennedy is. It's just drifting, sir. No life signs." Wilson slammed his fist on his command chair. "Launch everything we have. Don't let them near Earth." The space around them lit up with missiles and energy weapons. A few Nexari ships shattered under the assault, breaking into beautiful crystal shards. But there were too many. Through gaps in the battle, Wilson could see more Nexari ships heading toward Earth. On his screen, he watched cities around the world reporting the same strange feeling of despair that had hit his crew. "Get me Earth Command," Wilson ordered. His voice was rough with emotion. "Channel open, sir." "This is Commander Wilson. The Nexari are emotion vampires. They feed on feelings, especially strong ones. But rage, pure rage, seems to hurt them. Pass this on to everyone. Stay angry. Whatever happens, hold on to your anger. It's our only weapon now." The Defender shuddered as another attack hit them. Systems started failing across the ship. "Abandon ship," Wilson ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Get to the escape pods. Head for the Rocky Mountains. The Resistance will need good people." As his crew evacuated, Wilson stayed at his post, gathering all the data he could and transmitting it to Earth. The Nexari would win this battle, but humanity needed to know what they were fighting. The last thing Wilson saw before hitting the escape pod launch was Earth's cities beginning to glow with strange crystal structures. The Nexari were already building their emotion harvesting facilities. "This isn't over," he whispered to himself as his pod shot toward Earth. "This is just the beginning." In the following days, as humanity reeled from the devastating assault, Wilson's message spread through hidden channels. "Stay angry. Keep hoping. Don't let them take what makes us human." The Nexari had won the first battle. But they had made a terrible mistake. They had given humanity something to rage against, and in that rage, a light of hope remained, waiting to be unleashed. Rachel Hayes wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished treating another patient in the underground bunker. The old Chicago subway tunnels made a good hiding place, but they were hot and damp. 3 months had passed since the Nexari invaded, and each day brought more survivors suffering from emotional drainage. "How is he?" asked Bill Cooper, one of her fellow resistance fighters. He was a former police officer who still wore his badge as a reminder of the world they had lost. "Better now," Rachel said, checking the man's pulse. He managed to hold on to his anger about his family. That's what saved him. As a combat medic who served in the Marines, Rachel had seen many terrible things, but nothing compared to watching people lose their will to live under the Nexari's influence. Above them, through the cracks in the tunnel ceiling, they could see the purple glow of the crystal towers. The Nexari had built these emotion harvesters in every major city. People who got too close became empty shells, drained of all feeling except a deep sadness. "We've got movement topside," said Danny Wright through their radio system. He was their youngest lookout, only 19, but he had sharp eyes. "Another collection group. They're herding people toward the towers." Rachel grabbed her medical bag and rifle. "How many?" "About 30 civilians, 4 crystal guards." Bill checked his weapon. "We can take 4. Rachel nodded. Their group had learned that while bullets didn't do much against the crystalline aliens, extreme rage could crack their forms. It wasn't easy. Most people could barely hold onto any strong emotions near the Nexari. But Rachel had discovered that thinking about specific memories, especially angry ones, could help. "Remember everyone," Rachel said to the rescue team as they gathered. "Focus on what they took from us. Your families, your homes, your future. Hold on to that rage." They moved through the tunnels quietly, using paths they had mapped over the past months. The resistance had gotten good at these rescue missions. They would save who they could and bring them to safe zones away from the harvester towers. When they reached the surface, Rachel saw the group of civilians. They shuffled along like zombies, their faces blank. The Nexari guards floated behind them, their crystal bodies glowing softly. "Now," Rachel shouted. The resistance fighters burst from hiding. Rachel focused on her strongest memory. The day she found her hospital overrun by the Nexari, her patients drained of hope. The rage filled her like fire. The closest Nexari guard actually stumbled backward. Its crystal surface cracked slightly where Rachel's fury hit it. Bill and the others attacked too, each focusing on their own angry memories. "Run," Rachel shouted to the civilians. Some were too far gone, but others snapped out of their daze and fled toward the tunnel entrance. One of the Nexari guards shattered under the combined emotional assault. The others retreated, their surfaces scratched and cracked. "That's 17 people we saved," Bill said as they helped the survivors into the tunnels. "Best run this week." Rachel nodded, but her victory felt hollow. For every person they saved, hundreds more were lost to the harvesters. They needed a better way to fight back. Later that night, as Rachel checked on the new survivors, she noticed something interesting. A young woman named Karen still had bright, angry eyes, even hours after being near the harvesters. "How do you do it?" Rachel asked her. "How do you stay angry?" Karen smiled grimly. "I don't just focus on one memory. I think about everything. Past, present, and future. All the birthdays my little girl won't have. All the sunsets I'll never see. Every single thing they've taken. I keep it all right here." She tapped her chest. "And I feed it. Every day, I feed it." Rachel's eyes widened. Maybe this was what they needed. Not just momentary rage, but sustained, cultivated fury. The deeper kind of emotional strength. She immediately called for a resistance meeting. As their group gathered in the makeshift command center, Rachel shared her theory. "We've been using our anger like a weapon," she told them. "But maybe we need to use it like a shield too. Build it up over time. layer by layer. Bill nodded slowly, like emotional training. Exactly, Rachel said. We start teaching everyone today. And we spread the word to other resistance groups. As she looked around at the determined faces of her fellow survivors, Rachel felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. It wasn't much, just a spark. But sometimes a spark was all you needed to start a fire. Dr. Alan Foster hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. His underground lab in the Rocky Mountains was safe from the Nexari. But he missed the sky. Still, he had work to do. Important work. Run the scan again, he told Kelly Martinez, who stood at their makeshift sensor equipment. She was a former soldier who had fought in the first battles against the Nexari, and now she helped protect the research facility. Kelly adjusted the controls on their cobbled-together scanner. On the screen, waves of red energy pulsed from a test chamber where they kept a captured piece of Nexari crystal. Look at this, Alan said, pointing to the readings. Every time someone walks past feeling angry, the crystal changes. He had been studying these patterns for months, trying to understand why human rage hurt the aliens. Kelly leaned closer to the screen. Like it's in pain. Exactly. Alan ran his hands through his messy hair. The Nexari feed on human emotions, but strong anger seems to give them indigestion. Their work was interrupted by the facility's alarm. Kelly grabbed her rifle, but relaxed when she saw it was just the weekly supply team arriving. They'd brought not only food and equipment, but also news from other resistance groups. Dr. Foster called out Steve Rogers, one of the supply runners. You need to hear this. The Chicago group found something interesting. Steve shared Rachel Hayes' discovery about sustained anger being more effective than quick bursts of rage. Alan's eyes lit up as he listened. That's it, he shouted, rushing to his notebooks. We've been thinking about this all wrong. It's not just about being angry. It's about the type of anger and how long you can hold it. Alan and Kelly spent the next week running new tests. They asked volunteers to focus on different kinds of angry memories while standing near the crystal shard. They measured everything. Energy levels, wavelengths, patterns. There. Alan pointed at a particular reading. Look at the difference between someone thinking about a small annoyance versus someone focusing on the invasion. Kelly nodded. The righteous anger hits harder, like it's more pure. And when people maintain that feeling instead of letting it burst out. Alan typed quickly on his computer, combining their data. The effect gets stronger. But they had a problem. Most people couldn't stay angry for long periods. It was exhausting, and the Nexari's presence made it even harder. Then Kelly had an idea. What if we could store it somehow? She grabbed one of the crystal pieces. They use crystals to store emotions they steal. Why can't we do the same thing? Alan stared at her, then rushed to his equipment. Kelly, you're a genius. We don't need everyone to stay angry all the time. We just need to save up the emotion and release it when needed. They worked non-stop for days. Alan modified their sensors into crude emotion collectors. Kelly used her combat experience to figure out how to turn them into weapons. Their first test was small. They spent a week collecting angry emotions from the facility staff, storing them in modified crystals. Then they aimed the stored energy at their Nexari crystal sample. The sample didn't just crack, it shattered completely. We need to tell everyone, Kelly said, already reaching for their radio. Every resistance group needs to know how to build these. Alan nodded, but he was still thinking. Wait, there's something else. He showed her new readings from their tests. Look at what happens when we combine different people's anger. It's not just adding together, it's multiplying. A network, Kelly said slowly. If we could link up enough people, we could create an emotional weapon strong enough to drive them off Earth. Ellen finished her thought. They spent that night writing down everything they had learned. How to build the collectors, how to store the emotions, how to release them effectively. They made the instructions as simple as possible so any group could follow them. As Kelly prepared to send their findings to other resistance cells, she looked at Alan. "You know what this means, right? We're not just hiding anymore. We're getting ready to fight back." Alan nodded, touching the crystal that now held weeks of humanity's carefully preserved rage. In its depths, he could see a faint red glow, the stored anger of people who refuse to give up hope. "The Nexari think they understand human emotions," he said quietly, "but they've never seen anything like what we're about to show them." Captain Robert Chen didn't like surprises. 6 months into the Nexari occupation, surprises usually meant bad news, but the report from his scout team was different. "Say that again," he said into his radio, standing in the resistance base, hidden beneath an old factory in Detroit. "The kids, sir," the scout repeated. "They're different. The Nexari can't drain them as easily. You need to see this." 20 minutes later, Robert stood at the edge of a small camp where his team had found a group of survivors. Among them was a 10-year-old girl named Emma Parker, who sat reading a book as if alien crystals weren't floating through the sky above her. "Watch this," said Jane Wilson, one of his scouts. She pointed to a device they'd gotten from Dr. Foster's team, an emotion detector. When they turned it toward Emma, the readings were off the charts. "How long have you been out here?" Robert asked the girl's mother, Sarah Parker. 3 weeks, Sarah answered. "Emma, she keeps us safe somehow. When she's nearby, we all feel stronger, more angry, more hopeful." Robert knelt beside Emma. "Can you tell me how you do it?" Emma looked up from her book. "I just remember everything. The good stuff and the bad stuff. Like Mom says, it's okay to be angry about bad things as long as you don't let the anger control you." Robert watched as a Nexari patrol floated past in the distance. The adults tensed, but Emma just frowned at the crystals. The patrol changed direction, moving away from their hiding spot. "They don't like coming near me," Emma explained. "I think I give them a tummy ache." Robert immediately called Dr. Foster's lab. When he explained what he'd found, the scientist was excited. "Children's emotions are more pure," Alan said over the radio. "More intense, and they haven't learned to suppress them like adults do. Bring them to the lab. We need to study this." Over the next few days, Robert's teams found more children who showed the same ability. Some were even stronger than Emma. A boy named David could make Nexari crystals crack just by glaring at them. A girl called Amy could somehow share her anger with others, making them stronger. At the lab, Dr. Foster made an amazing discovery. "Look at this," he said, showing Robert the readings. "The children's emotional energy. It creates a kind of shield. And when they work together," he pointed to a screen showing Emma and Amy holding hands. The energy field around them had doubled in size, protecting everyone nearby from the Nexari's draining effect. "We can use this," Robert said. "Not to fight. We won't put kids in danger, but to protect our bases, to keep our people strong while we build up our weapons." They started organizing new safe zones, each one centered around groups of children who could maintain their emotional strength. The kids called themselves the Anger Club, but they were really more than that. They were hope made visible. Emma became their leader, teaching other children how to control and share their emotions. "It's like a superpower," she told them. "But the real power isn't in being angry. It's in being angry for the right reasons." Sarah watched her daughter with pride and worry. "I never thought I'd be teaching my child to hold on to her anger," she told Robert. "Everything we knew about raising kids, it's all different now." "The whole world is different," Robert replied. "But maybe that's not all bad. These kids, they're teaching us something important. How to feel deeply without losing ourselves." The resistance grew stronger around these emotional anchors. Adults learned from the children how to maintain their feelings without burning out. Dr. Foster's weapons became more effective as people got better at controlling their emotions. One evening, Robert found Emma teaching younger kids her techniques. "You have to remember the happy things too," she was saying, "because being angry about losing good things is stronger than just being angry about bad things." Robert smiled. The Nexeri had come to feed on human emotions, thinking they were just an energy source. Instead, they had forced humanity to truly understand the power of their feelings. And in the faces of children like Emma, he saw their future victory. Because while rage might be their weapon, it was hope that would light their way forward. Rachel Hayes looked at the strange weapon in her hands. It looked like a rifle, but instead of bullets, it held one of Dr. Foster's emotion-storing crystals. The crystal glowed deep red with weeks of collected anger. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked Dr. Foster. They stood in an underground bunker in Denver, preparing for humanity's first major strike against the Nexeri. "The tests were successful," Alan said, checking his tablet. "And with Emma's group helping us." Emma Parker sat with 5 other children in a circle nearby. They had spent days teaching the resistance fighters how to keep their emotions strong and pure. Now they would help protect the strike team from the Nexeri's draining effect. Kelly Martinez checked her own weapon. "The Crystal Tower in Denver controls most of the harvesting in this region. If we can destroy it, we can free thousands of people," Rachel finished. She looked at their team. 20 fighters, each carrying an emotion-powered weapon. Each person had trained for weeks to maintain their rage while staying focused. Robert Chen's voice came through their radios. "Strike team, are you ready? Our scouts report the tower is vulnerable." Rachel took a deep breath. "Ready. Emma, is your team set?" Emma nodded. The children joined hands, creating their protective field. Rachel could feel it, a bubble of strength that pushed back against the constant despair the Nexeri spread. They moved through the underground tunnels, following paths mapped by resistance scouts. Above them, the purple glow of the crystal tower leaked through cracks in the ceiling. "Remember," Rachel told her team, "short bursts. Don't drain your crystals too quickly, and stay within range of the kids." They emerged 3 blocks from the tower. Usually, being this close would leave them helpless, drowning in despair. But Emma's shield held strong. The Nexeri noticed them immediately. Crystal guards floated toward them, their surfaces glowing with stolen emotions. "Now," Rachel shouted. 20 emotion weapons fired at once. Red beams of concentrated rage hit the Nexeri guards. The effect was instant. Their crystal bodies cracked, then shattered. "It works," Kelly yelled. "The weapons actually work." More Nexeri came. Rachel's team split into groups, protecting Emma and the children while advancing toward the tower. Their weapons cut through the alien defenses like hot knives through butter. But the Nexeri weren't done. The tower itself began to pulse, sending waves of despair strong enough to make even Emma stumble. "Hold on." Rachel grabbed the girl's hand. "Remember what you taught us. Happy memories make the anger stronger." Emma squeezed her hand and stood straighter. The other children followed her lead. Their shield grew brighter. "Final push," Rachel ordered. "Everyone, full power." All 20 fighters fired at the tower's base. Dr. Foster had calculated this exact spot. The tower's weakest point. Red beams of pure human emotion struck crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks appeared in the tower's surface. The cracks grew, spreading upward like lightning. "Keep firing," Rachel shouted. She thought about everything the Nexeri had taken. Every patient she couldn't save. Every friend lost. But also every sunrise she wanted to see again. Every laugh she wanted to hear. The tower made a sound like breaking glass. Then, with a crash that shook the ground, it fell. As it shattered, a wave of purple energy burst outward. But this time, it wasn't despair. It was release. All across Denver, people felt their emotions returning. The Nexeri's hold was broken. "Base, this is Hayes," Rachel said into her radio, her voice shaking with excitement. "The tower is down. I repeat, the tower is down." The cheer that went up from her team was pure joy, the first real joy many of them had felt in months. Emma hugged Rachel's legs. "We did it. We really did it." Rachel knelt and hugged the girl properly. Yes, we did. And this is just the beginning. Later, as resistance teams helped dazed people out of Nexari holding camps, Dr. Foster checked his readings. The tower's destruction created a chain reaction, he said. It weakened all the Nexari crystals in the region. If we can do this in other cities, we can take back our world, Rachel finished. She looked at her team, tired but proud. For the first time since the invasion, they had proof the Nexari could be beaten. The tide was turning. Humanity had found its weapon, and more importantly, they had found their strength. The light of hope was spreading, and not even alien crystals could contain it. Lisa Anderson sat surrounded by computer screens in the Resistance's new command center near Seattle. As a former satellite expert, she now coordinated attacks across the globe. After Denver's success, more cities wanted to fight back. London team is ready, she said into her headset. Paris and Tokyo too. We're just waiting on Moscow. The command center buzzed with activity. Runners brought messages from cities without working communications. Radio operators talked to resistance groups worldwide. On the main screen, red dots showed Nexari towers, while green dots marked free human cities. Moscow is ready. A voice crackled through the radio. They have their children's shield team in position. Lisa checked her countdown clock. They had learned that coordinated attacks worked better. The Nexari couldn't respond to many threats at once. Today, 5 major cities would strike at the same time. All teams, final check, she called out. Emotion weapons charge. London ready. Paris ready. Tokyo ready. Moscow ready. Dr. Foster stood behind her, watching the screens. After Denver, he had improved the weapons. Now they could store more emotional energy, and the children's protective shields lasted longer. Remember everyone, Lisa said, stick to the plan. Hit the tower's weak points. Stay within your shield zones. Don't waste energy on guard crystals unless you have to. The countdown reached 0. All teams, attack. Through video feeds and radio reports, Lisa watched humanity strike back. In London, resistance fighters shot emotion beams through the fog at the Crystal Tower near Big Ben. In Paris, they attacked from the old metro tunnels, surprising the Nexari from below. London Tower showing cracks. Paris team at the base, preparing final strike. Tokyo needs backup. Heavy Nexari response. Moscow pushing forward, shield holding strong. Lisa coordinated reinforcements, directed teams to weak points, and tracked the Nexari's responses. The aliens were learning, trying new defenses, but they still didn't understand what made humans strong. Look at this, Dr. Foster said suddenly, pointing to his readings. The emotional energy, it's creating a chain reaction between cities. They're amplifying each other. Lisa saw it on her screens. As each tower fell, the others became weaker. Human emotions were linking across continents, growing stronger together. All teams, push harder, she ordered. It's working. The London Tower fell first, its crystal shards raining into the Thames. Paris followed minutes later. Tokyo's team, after a hard fight, brought their tower down. Moscow succeeded last, their victory shout clear even through static. But something else was happening. As Lisa watched her screens, she saw strange readings from other cities, ones they weren't even attacking. Dr. Foster, look at this, she called. The Nexari towers in Madrid, Rome, Berlin. They're destabilizing. Foster checked the data excitedly. It's a cascading effect. The combined emotional energy from our attacks is spreading. When humans in those cities see the towers falling, their hope grows stronger. That hope creates cracks in nearby towers, which makes more people hopeful. Lisa quickly sent messages to all resistance groups. Watch for falling towers. Be ready to help people when they break free. And keep those emotions strong. Over the next 24 hours, they watched in amazement as Nexari towers fell across Europe and Asia. Each falling tower strengthened nearby humans, who then helped bring down more towers. "This is it," Lisa said, tears in her eyes. "This is how we win. Not just by fighting, but by showing everyone they can fight too." The command center erupted in cheers as another cluster of red dots turned green on the main screen. More cities freed, more humans awakening from the Nexary's emotional control. But their celebration was cut short by an urgent message from their space monitoring station. Massive Nexary fleet detected. The warning read: hundreds of ships entering the solar system. Estimated arrival: 48 hours. Lisa shared a look with Dr. Foster. The Nexary weren't giving up. They were sending everything they had. "Send word to all free cities," she ordered. "Tell them to gather every emotion weapon, every shield team, every fighter who can still stand, and get me Commander Wilson." "What are you thinking?" Foster asked. Lisa looked at her screens, at all the green dots representing freed human cities, at all the people who had learned to turn their rage and hope into weapons. "I'm thinking it's time to show the Nexary what happens when they make humanity truly angry." Commander David Wilson stood on the bridge of the new U.S. Defender, watching Earth grow smaller in his view screen. After months of hiding and rebuilding, humanity had created a fleet of ships equipped with emotion-powered weapons. Now they would meet the Nexary in space. "All ships report ready," said Mary Baker, still at his side after all this time. "Emotion cores fully charged." Each ship carried crystals filled with the combined rage and hope of thousands of humans. On Earth, millions more people stood ready, their emotions focused on the coming battle. "Lisa Anderson reports all ground stations ready," Mary added. "They'll sync their attacks with ours." The Nexary fleet appeared, their crystal ships filling space like a beautiful, deadly storm. "They're broadcasting," Mary said. The alien voice echoed in their minds, just like that first terrible day. "Your resistance is impressive, but futile. Your emotions belong to us." David smiled. "Send our response." Emma Parker's voice rang out next, not just to the fleet, but to every human on Earth and in space. "You never understood what emotions really are. Let us show you." The battle began. The Nexary attacked with their usual draining power, trying to steal hope and create despair. But this time, humanity was ready. Shield generators, copied from the children's natural abilities, protected the fleet. Emotion-powered weapons fired beams of concentrated human feeling. "First wave of Nexary ships showing damage," Mary reported. "Our weapons are working." On Earth, Lisa coordinated the ground attack. Every free city fired emotion beams into space, their combined power creating a web of energy around the planet. The Nexary pressed harder, pushing through the human fleet's defenses. Some ships were lost, their crews evacuating in emotion-shielded pods. But for every human ship that fell, 3 Nexary ships shattered. "They're adapting," Mary warned, "creating some kind of crystal barrier." David grabbed his radio. "Dr. Foster, we need more power." "Already on it," the scientist replied from his lab on Earth. "Emma." Now, across the planet, Emma Parker and hundreds of other children joined hands in great circles. They had practiced this, prepared for this moment. Each child became a beacon, gathering the emotions of thousands of nearby humans and focusing them upward. In space, David saw the energy readings spike. All ships, full power, everything we have. Every human weapon fired at once. Ships, ground stations, handheld weapons, all carrying the combined emotion of billions of humans. Rage at what was taken, hope for what could be restored, all focused into one massive strike. The Nexary barrier shattered. Their ships began to break apart, unable to handle the pure intensity of human emotion. But more importantly, something was changing in the aliens themselves. "Commander," Mary called out. "The Nexary, they're trying to communicate." The alien voice came again, but different this time. Shaking, uncertain. What is this feeling?" "That's fear," David replied calmly. "Something you should have thought about before attacking Earth." The remaining Nexeri ships began to retreat, not in an organized way, but in panic, true, emotional panic. They had finally learned what it meant to feel deeply, and it terrified them. "Should we pursue?" Mary asked. David shook his head. "No, let them run. Let them tell others what happens when you try to steal humanity's heart." As the Nexeri fled, cheers erupted across Earth and through the fleet. Humanity had won not by becoming heartless, but by embracing their deepest feelings. Later, during the celebration in the renewed Times Square, David found Emma Parker and her mother in the crowd. "What you did up there," he told the girl, "it saved us all." Emma smiled. "Not just me. Everyone did it. We all learned to be strong together." Looking around, David saw what she meant. People were crying, laughing, hugging, feeling everything freely for the first time in months. The Nexeri had tried to drain humanity's emotions, but instead had taught humans how to feel more deeply than ever before. Dr. Foster appeared with his latest readings. "The emotional energy patterns have permanently changed," he said excitedly. "Humans are naturally generating stronger emotional fields now. If the Nexeri ever return—" "They won't," David said firmly. "They finally learned what we knew all along, that human emotions aren't just energy to be stolen. They're who we are. They're our light in the darkness, our strength when we need it most." Above them, the sky was clear of crystal towers and alien ships. Earth's emotions were its own again, not just rage and hope, but joy, love, sadness, everything that made humans human. In the end, the Nexeri had given humanity an unexpected gift. By trying to take their emotions, they had helped humans discover just how powerful those emotions could be. The war was over, the healing could begin, and humanity would face whatever came next with full hearts and unshakable spirits.